Sure. So what we're seeing is at the moment, the Omicron is really posing elevated downside risk to the near-term economic recovery in Asia Pacific. It's increased the near-term uncertainty, and we're certainly seeing the real results of that play out. We've seen Europe has been deeply affected by Omicron, and also the US. We've actually in January, downwardly revised our expectation for March quarter US GDP growth directly as a result of Omicron. So what we've seen through this pandemic is Asia tends to trail behind in terms of economic impacts. And so it's likely that we will see that Asia really isn't immune from this impact either when it comes to downward adjustments.
Yeah, and to connect the dots here, you make the very good point, Katrina, that there is a very direct relationship between what happens with COVID and what happens in the real economy, and China is a good example of that, right? Their hardcore zero COVID policy is going to mean, simply because of the economic importance and weight of China, that supply chain kinks are not going to be smoothing out or improving anytime soon.
That's a really good point. And I mean, so supply chain stress has been with us for, about a year now. And so our expectation would have been that that supply chain stress would materially ease in the early months of this year. And so we would start to see, material downward pressure on things like producer prices, input prices, that kind of thing. But given China's zero COVID policy and how they do, tend to shut down important ports, factories, and that really increases disruption. And it really does, increase downside risk that we will see that material improvement to supply chains, which has important ramifications for inflation and also for central bank policy making in the next couple of months as well.
Right, and speaking of which, Katrina, where does it put the PBOC, and where does it put your forecast this year for headline growth in China in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question. So what we're seeing is that despite expectations of ongoing supply stress in Asia, particularly driven by China, we aren't expecting that the PBOC is going to actually, have a tightening cycle. It's quite the opposite. In fact, we do expect that we will see further easing action from the PBOC. I mean, it could be as soon as next week with additional liquidity injections ahead of the Lunar New Year, just to give the Chinese economy that ongoing support that it needs, and that ongoing targeted support, given that the various challenges that China's facing this year. I mean, slowing property market, elevated financial risks, power supply issues. And so as a result of that, our GDP forecast for this year actually has China's GDP growth just south of 5%, which is quite a material slowdown from last year even.
Hi, I'm Emily Tan, and thanks for watching CNBC. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching.